This is MVP Unplugged. In this episode, we're going to learn how to write novels faster and more easily. We're joined by Michael. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you have built an amazing app called AI Story Builders that uses AI to write novels and kind of hold together the elements of story and narrative, verse and length, and everything like that, all the references. I'm really excited for you to show your app for us today. What inspired you to kind of build this?
The thing that inspired me to build it was when ChatGPT first came out. I guess it's been 3 years now.
Uh huh.
I
Yeah.
wanted to come up with an application to use that technology that was something that I really cared about and needed.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get back into writing fictional stories. But whenever I sat down to work on a story, I would have all these notes and, they're here and papers here, and I'm using, software like Scrivener. And um, I realized I'm building a database. So
Hmm.
initially, I wanted to make a software program that would just have a database of my characters and that sort of thing. And then to use AI to kind of, help, you know, write the story, to assist and that sort of thing. So that's what inspired me to start working on it, and then that led me down a whole path. And, we can kinda get into that, but that's what really started me on this path.
Yeah. And you're a Microsoft MVP as
Yes.
well. What inspired you to become a Microsoft MVP as well?
Well, I became a Microsoft MVP because I was involved, in an open source, project called .NET Nuke,
Hmm.
and it was through working on that, um, and really that's what made me fall in love with open source, and that's why AI Story Builders, it's fully open source, okay? So you
Yeah.
have the full source code, there's no, it's MIT license, so it's the most permissible license ever, and I saw that the power of open source is when you give something back to the community, what you get back is, it's immeasurable
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
feedback you get, um just the support of people, because they realize that we're all into this together. We're trying to make something good together. So that's what got me started in open source, and that work led to the MVP. It's a recognition of basically, you know, service to the community. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
recognition award, right? Um, so that's what started that, and then I've, you know, off and on, I've been an MVP for, I guess, almost 20 years now. Um,
Hmm.
and, I just love the whole you're part of a community, and just really that being part of a dev community, you're not just
Yeah.
coding on your own. So
Yeah.
that's why I love to stay in the program. And every year, you know, I hope to receive the award.
So I'm really excited, Michael, to kind of get into this and for you to share your project. So let's start there. Why don't you share AI story builders?
Okay. So this page here, if you see my screen, it's just showing, if you go to aistorybuilders.com, you'll see this page here, which kind of, it's kind of a little landing page here. There's actually a little video that, uh, gives you an overview, but it basically then talks about how to install it. And the way you install it is you can actually get it at um, the Microsoft Store. Again, it's
Hmm.
totally free, but you can just download it from the Microsoft Store. That's probably the easiest thing to do, and there you go. However, of course, there's a GitHub repo. So this is showing the GitHub repo, and here's where you can see all all the code here. Of course, still explanations, some more documentation about it. So you can get to it either way. And so when you run the application, it pretty much looks like this. Here, I already have some stories loaded, but when you first come in, what happens is that you're going to first want to go to settings, and you're going to want to select your AI provider, either OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. I will say that the Anthropic model, especially the latest Opus models, that's the ones you want to use. Yeah, it costs a little bit more, but the performance is just
Hmm.
immeasurable.
Just
Um,
amazing to see the innovation in models. It seems like every day there's a new model coming out and a new one on the leaderboard, as well. Pretty exciting.
oh, of course, yeah, and remember I started this, project 3 years ago, so I was using models that were much less capable. So
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
to make this tool work with those models that were, looking back at them now, are quite limited. Um, Yet, uh, with the newer models that are capable of so much more, what this application can do today, I feel is really night and day.
Mhm.
So once you put that in there, you just really want to start with a new story. And let me just grab my little sample here that I normally use, Three Little Pigs. And and then you can select how many chapters you want to create. It's only going to create the first paragraph of each chapter, but it just kind of gives an outline.
Mhm.
And then, of course, your AI model. And again, you see I'm using Claude Opus 4. And
Yep.
then you just hit create story. So as this is going, let me just quickly show you the challenges I had with creating this.
Mhm.
So initially, one would think, oh, I can just send to the prompt, this is the story I'm working on. Please either fix something or write the next paragraph, or, or actually some people thought write the next chapter. And I found that that doesn't work. And
Mhm.
I had a number of proof of concepts I created over a period of 6 months. And I remember I didn't have the AI coding wasn't what we have today. So
Mhm.
I could have made those proof of concepts much faster today. But
Yeah, yeah.
back then, you got to, put yourself 3 years ago. Um, so I made a proof of concept after proof of concept, and everything I tried wasn't working. Okay, so this is a story about failure. All right, and what do you do when you just something's not working? And what I do is I try to be I try to have a little bit of humility, right, and
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
see things for the way they truly are, not the way I want them to be. And the way things truly are was I could not get AI to write even a page, never less a chapter. I could not get it to write something that was coherent,
Uh-huh.
Now again, the models were less capable then back then, but it would write something that was, well, it was coherent, but it wasn't good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I realized that the best I could get the AI to do is to write one paragraph. And in
Mhm.
order to even write one paragraph, I had to provide so much information to the prompt
Yeah.
that, the program just needs to keep track of that.
Yeah, this was
And
yeah, I was
yeah,
gonna say this was my experience as well in the MVP program as I would have to write huge prompts, including "Do not do this, do
you
not do this, do not do this," right? And I would
yes.
like through processes of elimination, it would get better, but enter much better models nowadays, right?
Okay, enter much better models. However, and hopefully we're gonna touch upon this, is, um, I found that it's still about how much you give the prompt, As we know, AI is just an algorithm. It doesn't really think. It's an algorithm. It's a calculation. And therefore, what you put in is what you get out. The base program was based upon this structure that I'm showing here, which is I realize I have to break story down
Mhm.
into core elements. And it turns out that it's truly in this order. So this image here is just saying this is story, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the obvious things, a story consists of chapters and characters and and locations and that sort of thing. So we know that people know a story has characters and that you need to keep track of the characters. Okay, that part's obvious, but that's actually not the first part of story.
Yeah,
And this is what
yeah.
I found in my experience. The first part of story is timeline.
Mhm.
When so even in a story, you have flashbacks, right? Um, so a flashback is controlled by time. So if the
Yeah.
character is 5 years old in the flashback, that is controlling, okay? Everything has
Mhm.
to hang off of that timeline. So I realized that you start off with timeline first. So in my database structure, I start off with timeline. After timeline, even before you get to characters, is location. So the when and the where is
Yeah. Yeah.
with fictional stories, um, is or actually even a true story, but even story versus, say, you and I are talking right now, story is controlled by timeline and location.
Mhm.
Even if the location is unspecified, it is still a location. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
For example, so it's unknown to the reader, but it is a location that is distinct from, say, another location. So these 2 things is something I discovered. So timeline, location, and then we get to character. And
Mhm.
then with character, you have attributes, things like the hair color, their background history, and all that sort of thing. But it goes in this order. So, for example, a character's attributes, whether they have red hair or blue hair, is on always on a timeline.
Obviously, what I love about this, Michael, is that you are defining a combination of, relational data that is explicit. That is, you're telling the model this is what you want in the story, or you're helping generate it. But then you're allowing the model to then bring these different pieces together to form, paragraphs or perform, to
Right. Yeah,
form stories. Yeah,
I feed those to the model.
yeah,
And then, of course, uh, you have chapters which, compose of paragraphs.
yeah.
Another decision I did make with this application is, I didn't want to have a special database, so I actually use text files. So everything is
Mhm,
using, the text files to store all these elements. I, of course, use, embeddings so that I can use cosine similarity,
mhm.
to surface, things that are related to each other, and that's pretty much the base of the application. And then now you can see with the 3 little pigs here that we started off with, um, it creates a little synopsis, and this course is fed to, the AI in the prompt. You can also have, system messages, and these are things like, don't have foreshadowing, maybe the perspective is third person limited. Again, this sort of thing you can change, and you can, of course, even have world facts things like, magic is real and that sort of thing. But
Mhm.
then you see it breaks things down. So even with that little paragraph that I fed to it, it said, "Hey, there's different timelines. Farewell to mother. The 3 little pigs leave their mother. They're constructing their houses. The wolf arrives. We know this, right?
Yeah.
The brothers they flee to safety. The wolf failed attacks because this course has a happy ending, and the wolf's demise. Um, you have the locations: the pig's straw house, the mother's forest home that they live, the pig stick house, the brick house, right? These are
Yeah.
the locations that you would expect in the story. Then you have the characters and the 3 little pigs, Joe, Tom, and the wolf. Um, and and then you have the mother, of course, is off screen, I guess, in this version. Yeah. And then, of course, you have the chapters. Chapters have a synopsis. I'm so apologize if this is hard to read, but just it's there. And notice we only have the first paragraph of each of the chapters. And the reason for this, again, is that I found in this, even with the new frontier models, you only want the AI to help you write one chapter at a time.
Mhm.
So what happens is that you can come in here and you can kind of start and work on the next chapter, um, or you can just click this AI button and describe what you want, or you can just click this button and it'll just continue from the previous chapter.
I like
And
that. Yeah.
right, and what's happening here is that I'm feeding to the AI all the context of, okay, you're working on a chapter. And of course, let's go ahead and save here. You're working on a chapter, and this previous chapter, these are the characters that are in this chapter. This is the location that's this chapter. So therefore, everything that's tied to that location. Of course, this is the timeline to that chapter, and everything is tied to that. So it's all fed to the AI, and then the AI, of course, writes this prose, which
Mhm.
again, the frontier models, this prose would be it's better than, say, uh, a less capable model. But if I try to tell it to write too much, it'll write something good, but it will kind of get off, and it's just not a human, you know.
Yeah,
And one
yeah.
more quick thing. Um, Updating the database of, say, the characters and all their, elements, while that can be time consuming, what you can do is you can simply click, auto detect attributes, and what happens is that the AI will look at this and say, "Hey, look, there's something new," and I can just, add that to the database. So that's a way for
Yeah.
you to add things to the database quickly and easily.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
I suspect that as you write more chapters, the AI gets better and better at writing chapters aligned with what, what your
because
vision
right,
or
because you're giving it more information. You are, yes, you're
yeah,
giving it more
yeah. So
information.
like, so say you write chapter one, but then you make human refinements to it. Say, I don't know, say you edit it by 50% compared to what AI did.
Right,
But then the next chapter, you're going to edit it by 25%. And the next chapter, you're going to edit it by
right.
10%, right? Because theoretically, or, as we think about this, like, it understands the context for how to make the story more focused, especially when you give all these attributes like timelines and locations and characters and such.
Yes. And a couple
Yeah.
of other quick features about it. You can import an existing story, whether it's Word, a PDF, or text. So that's why I imported, for example, The Great Gatsby. It's in you know public use. Um,
Yeah, one of my
so
favorite books. It's one of my favorites.
right, see, so it's all here, and of course it broke down. These are the characters. Um, you'll see there was actually a little bit of uh, issues here where Daisy and Daisy Buchanan and Daisy are it thinks it's
Uh-huh.
two different people. So this is something I'm still working on here. Um, but yeah, and these are all the different locations and that sort of thing. So you can import an existing uh, story, and of course you can export your story to as a Word document.
You know what I like about, The Great Gatsby in this case and some of the other stories that you've imported is, it's one thing to write The Three Little Pigs, which is a fairly simple story with,
Right.
a few characters, a few settings. But when you get to The Great Gatsby or, J.R.R. Tolkien or other
Yes.
more complex things, it articulates the scale potential of AI. An AI-based solution like this can help us keep our own story together and avoid inconsistencies in the story, which I think is amazing, especially as it gets more complex.
Right, so, like, here, uh, this right here is the last paragraph in The Great Gatsby, and you can basically say, "You know what? Continue the story."
Yeah.
And this will actually, literally continue the story of The Great Gatsby, so it's kinda wild when you kinda think about
The
it.
next fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, fan fiction, exactly. So
Well, you mentioned, Michael, a little earlier about, others, for our viewers and our listeners out there that you all can build this. Tell me a little bit more about like how did you build this?
so if you look in your hard drive, in your documents folder, you'll see a folder called AI Story Builders, and here's where you'll see all the a folder for each story, and then you'll see folders for each part of the story. So, for example, I go into chapters, and then you'll see folders for the chapters. And then when I go in there, you'll see a text file for each paragraph. And if you open up the paragraph, you see something that looks like this, which is
Mhm.
these are the characters that are in that paragraph. This is the prose of that paragraph. And here are the embeddings uh, that represent that paragraph.
Mhm.
And the program literally, you know, opens these files up, reads these embeddings, uses RAG, which is Retrieval Augmented Generation, which then uses a calculation called Cosine Similarity to then determine what paragraphs are related to each other. And therefore, it then creates the prompt that is then sent to the AI. Which leads us into the why I'm now using knowledge this I'm still using this, but I'm also now with RAG using knowledge graphs to, what in my opinion, really makes this program 10 times better.
All right, so Michael, tell me a little bit more about this new graph feature that you are building. I'm pretty excited to see, what you've learned and how you're growing and how you're improving this overall AI story builders.
The first thing I did was went into, kind of vibe coded an app and I said, "Hey, look at my existing AI story builder files and create a knowledge graph from them." And it created something that looks like this.
Yeah, so this is a
And
JSON file, that then is going to aggregate all this data into a visualization?
right. So this is like the raw thing,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
However, I then vibe coded an app that where I basically said, "Hey, can you show me, let me just start here. Can you just visualize this graph? So here, using the same Sherlock Holmes, I basically come up with something. I know this is impossible to see, so don't worry, I'm going to zoom in here. But this is Sherlock Holmes, that knowledge graph I just showed you. This is it visualized.
All right. So, Michael, now you're visualizing the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Tell us a little bit more about how an author would utilize this to kind of keep the story straight and understand where to go next.
Right. So this right here is just a visualization of the graph just to get an idea. A graph, of course, consists of entities like these are the characters, and then you have the edges, which contain information that this character interacts with this character, and so on. And of course, we also have everything broken down by paragraphs so that you can see what characters interact with which
Yeah.
paragraph with that. So what happens is that this graph is then exposed to the AI as tools.
Hmm.
So therefore, the AI is able to use those tools to make as many calls as it needs to interrogate this graph. So what I've added is a chat window that allows you to do things like indicate the interactions between Watson and Holmes in chapter one. And what
Yeah.
happens is it's able to come up with this very, very detailed response that what I normally would not be able to surface using simple retrieval augmented generation, because with RAG, I'm limited by how much I can surface, to the prompt. Whereas here, the frontier models using their advanced tool calling capability, it can make as many calls as it needs to that graph and therefore surface everything that it needs. Um, and what I've also added is the way to go um, the other way, whereas you can say, okay, you've identified issues, please update, um, the story or update the chapter to, fix those issues.
Hmm.
So therefore,
Yeah.
I've exposed this tools that allow it to update the files. So this capability is what's being added. I should be
I
releasing that
love
this
this. I love
weekend.
this because you're asking
Right,
questions to keep your story straight, but then you're using this as context to then write more story and have that be more accurate as well.
right.
Wow.
So I look forward to the hopefully the community will like this feature, and then also can see how they can adapt this technology to their own applications by identifying things in their applications which uh, they can identify, entities and edges to create knowledge graphs, and then expose that knowledge graph to the AI through tools that then allow their applications to, um, just go deeper than just mere RAG can currently provide.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for sharing this application and sharing your passion, being a Microsoft MVP. This is a fascinating project. And so I really appreciate you sharing it today. And thank you for being here on MVP Unplugged.
Thank you for having me.